Hi, Sheila with Creative Aging. We are going to do some birds of paradise. And I already have it sketched out on my paper. And I'm using just a square sheet of watercolor paper, which some of you have. Some of you have a full sheet and you're welcome to cut that down whatever size you want. And whenever you're drawing, just think about if you want, you know, one big one or if you want a couple. I went ahead and did a couple. These, you know, I think most of you have been in class with me long enough that I'm pretty sure you can do two, because I think that will take a good amount of time and be a good hour and a half. One might be too quick for you. So I would recommend drawing two. Unless you're a beginner and maybe your first year into our art classes, then maybe you could do one. So these are not difficult drawings. You know, just lightly sketch, kind of do a contour drawing where you're going to just do the outline of the shapes. And so lightly sketch that. You can do it from a picture. I'm going to have pictures attached to this link. So you're welcome to look through my pictures and choose which one you want to draw from. And then after you draw it, we're going to take a fine point Sharpie, and you can do this right after you draw it, or you could do it at the end. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. And I'm just going to go over my lines. And we can always add more lines later. I mean, we can make it kind of like sketchy lines, or right now I'm just going to go simply over all the lines. And this is a bad pen. I just tested it and it's not the best. So let me do another one. Sometimes these sad little pens get really worn down if you don't take good care of them. And I've used these for a lot of classes, so they've had some use. See how much better that one is? Oh my gosh. Looks so much better. And if you don't go perfectly over your pencil lines, that's okay. They're gonna be covered up when we paint, so you can also erase them. So like I said, this is optional to do it now or to do it later. So if you're not sure you want black outlines, then go ahead and skip it. You can always add this later after your paint dries. And let's do this one. And of course, you know, go ahead and have your paint out, have a couple point brushes, cup of water. I would suggest 2 cups of water, just so you have one clean, one handy, paper towel, and that's it. And I'm painting on this cardboard, just this flat piece of cardboard, just to protect my table. I have an art table, but I wanted to sit in my living room today. My art room sometimes becomes my junk room, and it's kind of sad. It's a mess. Okay, here is my outline. Now, at this point, you can erase your lines, or they're probably gonna be painted over. I only see a couple lines that I will erase. So maybe right here, I'll erase this one, because it's just very obvious. So if you wanna erase, you can. And then most of you have new brushes. These are so exciting. You have no idea how much I needed these. I know you guys have probably noticed my videos of some of my brushes literally falling apart. I don't know if you watched the one where the silver part just fell off as I was painting. Like, I was kind of desperate. So, couple new point brushes. Got a medium and a bigger one. So just get a couple sizes. I can't even remember the last time I got to use a new brush. Usually I give those to you guys, so. I'm gonna start with the bigger one. And remember, you wanna start the lighter colors. I know we've been doing watercolor, so hopefully you kind of remember some of these things. So let's start with the yellow. and will build up. So you want to start lighter, and then you can always add more and more layers and get it darker. Just harder to take away color. So let's do some yellows. And you can paint right over your Sharpie. We can always go over the Sharpie again later if we need to darken it up. And I'm just gonna paint both of them just to get it started. So think about, remember, when you're looking at your picture, think about which ones are yellow, which one have yellow and oranges and which one have greens. And I don't want this to be like a coloring book. So I'm gonna add more black lines later. I want it to be, I don't know, a little kind of sketchy feeling, you know, to where it's not like you painted a coloring book. So you don't have to make these lines perfect. So if you paint outside the lines, don't stress out, because we're gonna just add more black lines later to make it look like you did it on purpose. All right, let's take some oranges and just add them. I'm gonna go right into the yellow and drag it. And then let's see, let's do a darker color, that one, because it's behind. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of a darker, so maybe just a little orange red. And I'm gonna go into the yellow again, but I'm gonna drag it out right there. So think about which ones are in the front, which ones are behind. That will help you decide which colors to use. And while this is still wet, we're gonna go over there. Now you can do one at a time. You can definitely do both of them, it's up to you. And I almost used too much water. I want you to notice what happened there. So I used more water, I didn't even mean to, but see, it's almost about to bleed outside of my lines. So I'm gonna be really careful right here so that doesn't happen, and I'll just kind of take some of it away and bring it over here. But you can kind of tell immediately when you have too much water on your brush, and you might want to dab it away before it runs outside. So it didn't, so I'm gonna leave it and just let it dry like that, but I just want you to be really aware of what your water is doing. And remember, if you go outside the lines, it's okay. We're gonna add more lines, so I kind of want you to go outside the lines. Break the rules today. Everybody's so worried about going outside the lines, and we're just gonna make it part of the painting. Let's go ahead and switch to our greens and let's let that dry. And so like we did earlier, let's start with the lighter green. And that is really dry. You can tell this paint has not been used in a while, so it's pretty dry. So I want you to put extra water. I want you to be in tune with your paint and your brushes. So just start to notice what your paint and what your brush is telling you. You can tell if it needs more water, if it needs less water, if your paper's upset, it's gonna start shedding. You just need to kind of listen to your art supplies and figure out what you need to do next. I know you guys are at the point where you should be paying attention to all these things, and it'll help you. So then you won't even have to think about how much water you're using, and you won't have to use your paper towel, and it'll just be so much easier. And so even though I put extra water in that green, look, it's still pretty dry. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of extra water. So it needed it. Sometimes the paints just haven't been used in a while and they need to kind of sit with the water on top of them for a little bit just to get ready. And I want to go ahead and put some yellow right on top of that green. I want you to clean your brush, switch to the yellow. I want you to brighten some of that up. Maybe on this edge, the top. And you maybe don't want to go over the whole thing, but just a little bit. We're gonna add more green later, and then you can go ahead and start doing this part. I'll go ahead and I'm gonna start with, see, it's already got mixture of the yellow and the green. It turns into such a pretty glowing lime green. I'm gonna pick up my paper and show you. Well, actually I can't pick up my paper and show you because this is too wet and it will drip. So I'm not going to, but I will later. I'm gonna switch to this dark green right here. And figure out what side you want to be darker. Where is your sun? Is your sun over here, or is it coming from this direction? Figure that out, because you want to have one side of your stems kind of shadowed and then the other side gonna have more highlights. So I'm going to make the sun coming from this direction. So this side would be a little darker. And see, it made a big stripe. I'm going to just take water and I'm gonna blend those together. So it's like not a stripe, and it blends that edge of the line better. And I wanna take that dark green, I'm gonna add it to this edge right over here on this leaf or stem. What do you call this right here? All right, do the same thing over here. Let's add some dark on one edge. And I'm gonna go ahead and two darks, and then I'm gonna switch greens, and then I'm gonna add my yellow. So it doesn't really matter what, how you blend these. You can kind of use the greens as you want, however you want to mix them. You can start with the yellow and add the greens on top of the yellow. You can add the greens later, the yellows later. It's up to you. I'll add a little bit of yellow. I'm gonna switch to that now. And I'll just add it to this edge, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna let it all dry again and switch back to the other part. Okay, and this got missed, so let's add green. Okay, and figure out what color you want these little things to be. I'm gonna make them a little purple. And at this point, you might wanna switch to a small brush. So go ahead and switch that. You can figure out what purple you want. Now that is definitely some harder control because it's so tiny. So you're gonna have to really master your point brush for this part. And as you can see, even I'm kind of shaky. So when you're doing these detailed spots, it's okay. It's pretty normal to be a little shaky. Especially if you're having coffee like I am right now. And I think I want to add another color I don't really want you to do anything flat. We need to always add a couple colors. So I'm gonna maybe add this light pink. I don't use it very often, so let's use this pink. I just wanna see how it'll look. So I wanna add this pink to some of the edges on this part. See how bright, maybe to brighten it up a little bit. And if I don't like it, I can always dab it away. Maybe over here too. You can even add some pink to this part if you wanted. Kind of up to you. Might be pretty. Let's do it. Let's play. For some reason, pink is my least favorite color, so I just forget that pink is there. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of pink, and I'm gonna do like lines to where it's not like I'm painting. I'm just gonna kind of do some starburst lines, if that makes sense. All right, so watch. I'm just gonna drag it and just do a couple little lines of pink. See how it brightened that up quite a bit? And then that little part right there, let's wait for the pink to dry, and then we're gonna do that part, like a darker purple. So don't be afraid of mixing your colors. That's when it looks good. So this pink brought it all together quite a bit. And now all of a sudden you can see the colors of the leaves. You can see that I use a little pink and the purple. Like it's starting to come together and look a little more three-dimensional. Whereas before it looked flat. That's why I do not want you to do just one color. It looks very immature when you just do one color, and nobody's gonna be impressed. So if you wanna hang these on your wall or give them as presents, learn to mix colors and blend, and the more layers, the better. It will come alive. Just take some time. We need to figure out this right here, because that's weird. So let's think, do we want that to be more oranges? Let's do it. I'm gonna bring the pink. I have pink still on my brush. I'm just gonna go over it because that yellow looks weird. I don't want that to be a focus. So let's go ahead and just do the pink. I'm gonna do that right here too. And then I'm gonna add some oranges. So let's go back and look and figure out and be really mindful. Sorry, I'm trying to give you a close up. Now it's too close. You can't even see my paints. Let's figure out if this would look better or you could do a light orange. I'm not sure. Let's start with this red, just a little bit on the small brush. And let's do a little bit. Let's do a little bit back here. So let's go and let's bring this one out a little bit more. And you know, some of them, they may have like little dots of color. So I'm going to blot this because this is too much, but I want to do some little dots and texturing because it wouldn't be perfectly smooth. It's a flower, but that is too dark, I think, a little bit. So let's blot it. And you still see it though. That looks better. So you can still see the dotting I did. And now let's add some yellow again. So see what I mean? We kind of go over the same things we did. So we just covered the yellow up, but now we're gonna add it again. But I think it's gonna look good. It just needs to be mixed and more natural looking. So let's just add it, brighten some of these parts up. And we're gonna do the same thing and kind of do some lines just to give it a little bit more texture so it's not perfectly smooth. Gonna get all these edges. And then over here, I want you to see the difference. This one, let's see, sorry, there's the better lighting. Okay, look at the one on the right and look at the one on the left. Do you see how flat that looks? We haven't added more layers to that side. So I want you to see the difference. So this one definitely needs more. So let's pay attention to that one. See how muted that red and the oranges look? It's pretty sad. And honestly, even, well, it's pretty dry, but the more it dries, the more muted the colors get. So be aware of how it's drying because it will lighten up a little bit. So let's add some maybe yellows, just a little highlight the edges. I'm gonna do some lines just like I did over there. And let's do some reds. Oh, sorry, bumped my. I'm gonna do some reds and maybe maybe, let's see. Let's do reds on this back one. All right, I want you to notice, see how there was already water on top of the yellow. It actually worked out, so it's gonna blend and just sit right on top. But if this water looks like it's gonna run, and just to be safe, I'm gonna blot it. If it looks like it's gonna run outside your lines too much, I just wanna blot it a little bit. So I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna add some pink on this one, just like I did the other. And figure out where you want it. We're just gonna do some lines out. And I wanna add more pink over here because I feel like my yellow got rid of it. So I'm gonna make this one darker because it is behind. So I'm just gonna make my pink and mix it over here. And it's looking good. I think I can tell we need help on this one right here. So I'm gonna add more yellow, brighten it up. Then I'm gonna go and add my final touches to the purples. I'm gonna brighten this up too, just the edge. And see if you get too many lines, you can go over them. So see, I'm just gonna go over it with the yellow just to add to it. And then right there, let's make that dark. Okay, so I'm using the dark purple. So I just got a little bit on my brush, the tiniest brush, and you do not want much water because we're gonna do this tiny part right here. And so you can even kind of dot it. If you have better control, you might wanna dot it. It's up to you. And actually, I'm gonna blot that. There was a little bit of water, so I'm gonna blot it because I don't know if I want it quite that dark. So I went ahead and blotted it because I wanted the water gone, and I want better control. I just felt like it was not the shape I wanted. So now there's no water on top at all, and I'm gonna draw it in. This makes it to where I can do it exactly the way I want. I'm gonna do this over here too. And then let's do a little purple, dark purple on the edge. And you can even do darks right here if you wanted. I'm just gonna do a dark line. So I'm just gonna do my drawing with dark. And then you can I'll probably blot that in a minute just because I don't want it quite that dark. Just a little bit. I just want it to be more gradual. And I'm even gonna go over it with my brush and just the water now. So this is just water on my brush. I'm going to go over it a little bit. There we go. Now that just made it a little bit more of a gradual blend. Same with over here, it's what I want. Okay. And then I lost my pink. I'm gonna go back in and re-add my pink here in a second. Think about, now while this is drying, I want you to look at your painting, figure out if you want to add more greens, add more yellows. What do you want to do? Do you need reds in your painting? Figure that out, and I'm gonna blot this just so I can add my pink and not wait for it to dry because I'm impatient because I'm doing a video. Now you guys have time to wait for it to dry, so you get to have more fun with this. So I have more pink on my brush, and I'm just gonna do a little bit. And you know, I just dotted this with a paper towel, and there was still water. This is a different paper than I usually use. This is a different brand. It's funny, each paper is a little different. Usually, if I blot the water away, you cannot see it anymore. So I'm amazed that this one you can. All right, I think we're about ready to add some more black lines. So I want you to let it dry. Then you can retake your Sharpie and kind of go over your lines. And if you want to make them, you know, a little more sketchy, you can do that. You can make them straight on top. If you don't want those lines on there at all, that's fine too. But just make sure it's dry. So I know what parts have dried on mine. I'm gonna go ahead and do the green. And you don't have to do all of them. So you can you don't have to make them all the same. And if you have lines that you got outside the line, the paint outside the lines in the beginning, you can make that look like you did it on purpose now. So just go up. And those of you that know me, you know that I don't usually do these kind of lines. I'm a very straight line person, so this is uncomfortable for me, I have to admit. So I'm purposely trying to just make it look a little more kind of sketchy to where it's not just an outline. And so I'm gonna do that. And you know, I'm gonna do a few places where I'm gonna have no lines, I think. So you can turn your page and yeah, just figure out if you want lines all over, if you just want a few. Because some of the lines kind of got covered by the paint, but it looks good. You can still see it, but it's just really faded. So you might like that. You might want to leave it. And this, I'm not gonna do anything to the purple part because it's so delicate. I like it delicate over there. This looks kind of like it needs it. So see, I went outside the line right there. Now, of course, I could easily dot that away, but I'm just gonna make it part of the picture. And then same over here. I'm going to make this look like it was done on purpose. So at this point, most everything's dry, so you're okay. It doesn't take long, and we didn't do a wash or anything underneath for this, so, and then let's bring out the green. I'm not gonna go all the way down, I'm just gonna do certain parts. But I am gonna bring out these lines just to give it a little bit of direction. And maybe I need some right there. And so I think right there, I'm just gonna go straight up. Okay, let's take a pause and look at it. All right, I think this is gonna be done. And I'm going to have other options so you can see a variety of pictures in case you want to just do watercolor painting and you want to add more detail and you don't want the black lines. If you want to do more drawing, then I'm going to add a picture of one that has more black lines. So I want you to feel comfortable playing with your extra fine point Sharpie. It does change the look of it, so it is a little bit scary to do this on top of your painting because it definitely changes everything. So hopefully you can see this okay in this lighting. I had to change my lighting today because I had so many shadows. The sun is crazy in my place, and so I didn't have a good light to get rid of the shadows. So hopefully this is bright enough in here. But yes, please take a look at the pictures and the lesson plan if you need more details. Have fun.